In this part of the photography review show, we're gonna be looking at night, still life, portrait, travel, wildlife, and mixed team photographers. Hello again and welcome back to the second part of our photography review show where we're looking at your photos. This week we created two parts. One was focusing at landscape photographers, and then this part we're going to be looking at all the rest of the styles. Once again, I'm really sorry for the delay this week. We were traveling from Athens back to UK and I lost the voice for 2 days, so here comes the photos and the reviews with the delay. But for those who don't know me, my name is Jacob Bors. I'm a professional photographer. I'm based in West Sussex here in United Kingdom, and for the last 2-3 years I've been reviewing pictures for my colleagues and friends. And so we decided here at Clever Photographer that that's what we're gonna do for our photography community. It's gonna be lots of fun. We're gonna be looking at your artistic and technical skills, and also we look at your post-processing and try to give you some tips and tricks on what you could do with your photos. But without any further ado, let's jump straight into it. We have a lot to look at and it's gonna be lots of fun. So let's get on with it. And here we are back in the Lightroom. We have 10 photographers to look at with multiple different photography style. And first we're gonna start with the photographers which send us kind of mix of different photography styles. And first one, his name is Bob, and we're looking at two different pictures. So we have kind of macro capture, and we have this picture which is some kind of grass, and obviously there is some texture added to it, and it's all kind of nice and complex. So we have two photos. My first impression, this one, I love it. It's something else. Obviously, it's not your pure photography, but it's a lovely creation with a beautiful sun behind the grass and then the texture on the top of it. It's great, and I think it's well done. And for its type of photography, I think it really works. So well done on that one, Bob. And then looking at the macro photo, again, looking at it, there are some parts which are sharp, some not so much, but in overall, I love the feeling of it. I think the black really works in this case as a contrast of the white and purple, and well done on that. So from technical point of view, looking at this one, obviously there is some kind of sunrise with a lovely silhouette of this weed or the grass on the kind of field. So really nice done, well done on the capture there. There is not much more technically I can add to it. Let's see if we have any detail of the camera. We do, so you use Canon Digital Rebel, obviously ISO 100, so the setup there is right. F14, I'm not sure what you were going for, maybe like some kind of star effect on the sun, which isn't really that visible here, but still, anytime we see the ISO 100 on this kind of photography, it's the right direction. And then on this one, there is no information about the photo, which is a little bit of a shame, but technically it's well captured. I'm a bit confused because these parts of the flowers seems to be a little bit out of focus. And then the one little bit further, even with a little spider, are in sharpness. And looking at the kind of trend which is coming out now for macro photography is your main subject, which in this case is the whole flower, or at least the visible parts, should be in focus. I know that previously it was a trend to maybe have in focus just the small parts of the flower or just the bag, but the macro photographers are kind of stepping away from it, and this is the reason why I would suggest for next time try to make sure that not only these parts and maybe also this part, which is a huge part of your photo, is in focus. So that's just one thing. The lighting is absolutely stunning, beautiful, so nothing to add there. The light is used well and it's great. So same on technical points of view, both of them, just with the notes on the sharpness here. Moving on the artistic feel. So this one, again, lovely composition. The only thing is, I think it's a little bit of a shame that you kind of missing a piece here, that it's kind of disappearing. So maybe I would do the crop just slightly differently. Let's see if we can unlock this and just kind of keep the balance on both sides same. So you would probably be going on something like this, and still get the same effect without the kind of falling off and the blank space. But it's just an idea. Obviously, again, you could do and turn it completely around, and that's get something really strong. Something like this would look stunning too. So just an idea to maybe try to avoid the empty space on the side here. But in overall, artistically, I love it. Again, like my first impression when I said, I think it's beautiful. Even if you keep the crop, I would try to keep the sun in the center to kind of keep the main focus point in the center, as it is the main centerpiece of the photo. Looking at this one, generally, I really like when there is some kind of texture used as a background for these kind of photos. I know the flowers on the black is not that easy to make, but I think it's starting to come out a little bit of the trend. I think now it's more trendy when there is some kind of texture or a little bit of it, but still is a lovely capture with the kind of line in between. It's falling there nicely. You have this in your third, and it's just a beautiful capture. The message is clear. The flower, the celebration of the flower works here, Bob. So well done on that. On the post-processing side, again, well done, great work with the texture use on the picture. I think it really adds to it what it's supposed to be, and I think the photo is stunning. The colors are nice and natural. The post-processing on the actual silhouette works very well as well, so I love this one. On this one, again, I think the light, brightness, your highlights and shadows are well done there. Nothing is burned, nothing is too much. I just think that there is a little part here where there is a little bit of a leak, which is probably the easiest fix you can make simply with just kind of correcting tool. You don't even need to go to Photoshop these days for this. And that's it. So really nice and simple fix there, and that's it. So well done, natural colors. Bob, thank you so much for sending us your photo. I would love to see more of your work. It could be very interesting. So if you have a moment, make sure you send us more of your pictures in the future. Moving on to next photographer, we have a Murray. Murray, we have 2 pictures from you, and we have this lonely tree, which is very lovely, and then we have this picture, and to be honest, I have no clue what it is. I will be just guessing that it's some kind of moon, maybe traveling with a long exposure and then long exposure in the trees. But I'm not 100% sure, Murray. And to be honest, as my kind of old friend photographer saying, if you have to explain your photo, if you have to explain to the viewer what is on it, it generally never really works. Because you're gonna be standing in a gallery and telling the people, oh, this is interesting because it's this. The people need to understand, and it sometimes need to be pleasing aesthetically for them to understand to it. On the other side, this one is a lovely photo, but there are some notes which we can definitely give you to see if you can do a little bit better and push it a little further forward. So on this one, I don't know, because I don't know what it is, I'm not really sure what I'm looking for. I will leave it and we'll focus on this one. So technically, it's a lovely silhouette. There is a lovely light there. It almost looks like some kind of blue hour. Let's see if we have any details. You can use a Nikon D7000, ISO 250, and it looks like it was 12 o'clock, and I'm not sure if this works because sometimes the dates are not right. But if it was at 12 o'clock, then I'm not sure why you were going for the ISO 250. At this time of the day, always go for 100 to keep all the noise away. Let's have a look. You can see the noise coming out, especially in the darker areas and in the corners. So how to avoid it is to go for the 100 ISO. Then technically, I think everything is sharp here, including the background. Nothing is overexposed, so it's looking good to me. Moving on to artistic feel. So I think as a composition, it works very well. I think it's well done. On the other side, it's tilting, which we're gonna fix in a moment. And that's it. I think artistically you have an eye for it. So let's see if we can just help with the crop a little bit. So that's better. You already get a nice line. And there are some birds, and it's very, very lovely. There is some lightness there as well. Moving on the post-processing. I think your white balance is off. Something isn't right with the colors. So let's see if maybe auto can help, and not really. I wonder what it is. I wonder if it's too much of a blue. Obviously, you could really push the blue and get something like a blue hour. Or you could turn it to black and white here. And see, where am I? Here. Why it doesn't let me? Maybe because it's JPEG. Black and white. Which would work even best. And the reason being is, when I look at this and when I bring it back to what it was, anybody looking at it, any even unprofessional viewer will look at it, and first thing their brain's gonna feel is, this is not real, something isn't right about this picture, because the color doesn't correspond to anything but the eye can imagine. It's way too much blue-green, kind of fake yellow in it. So that's where black and white turns, and people suddenly, the moment you switch to black and white, people start to people stop thinking about the white balance. So for this, definitely something I would be looking at. And then once it's black and white, you can do lots of magic, push the contrast, maybe push the, if I close this and open the effect, push the clarity, and then do some like more vignetting, you know, with a little bit of exposure here, and then really push the glow around and so on. And then suddenly you have a new picture and something else to work with. So if the light and colors are not perfect, which it looks like in your picture were not, go for the black and white and then push it with a nice contrast, clarity, and see what's gonna come out there. But anyway, thank you for sending us your picture, Marie, and if you have a moment, send us more information about this picture. I would love to know what's on it. Moving on, next one is Sabine. Sabine is our regular photographer, and also 2 weeks ago, our photographer of the week. She captured the best pictures of her dogs, and this one again, once again, absolutely love this one. It works super well because there is this little nice frame and leading line created by these kind of trees. The dog posture is great, everything is nice and sharp, and again, just as much as I loved your picture of the golden retriever in the water, I love this one because it works super well. It's a lovely capture with lovely details, great post-processing, the kind of bouquet there, which works brilliantly on this photo, and once again, great capture. So on this one, nothing I can add. Artistically, it's well done. Technically, it's well done. Great post-processing, lovely golden glow again, and well done. Moving on this one, the glass ball. Something what I loved 3-4 years ago. It was a big thing to use these glass balls, and then just as with everything in a photography on the kind of mainstream position when it comes to Instagram and Facebook, it got overdone and it disappeared. So now it's kind of gone. To be honest, it's really tricky to do something interesting. When I look at this picture, it's probably because of the compression, but I don't know if you can see it, but I get lots of kind of color leak and noise. Also, the glass ball wasn't really clean properly, so I can see some dirt and scratches on it. I think the picture, what would help would be a bit more saturation, so everything is a bit tame. I'm not 100% sure about it, but from technical point of view, yeah, you get the flower nicely sharp and focused, so well done on that. I think the light isn't perfect, or I don't know how was the post-processing done, but I'm not crazy about it. I think when I look at this picture and when I look at this one, it's almost like it was taken by two different people, because everything works here. It's top and spot on, and this one, not really. And again, I'm quite surprised by the amount of noise. I would love to know how you capture it and with what, to see why you're getting so much noise and why the compression really didn't work that much. From the artistic point of view, I've seen much better things done with the glass ball. Again, if you have a time, Sabine, go to a website called px500.com and just in the search bar up there, write the glass ball, and you will see what people are able to do with it, and you will get lots of inspiration for your future, what you can do with this element and what other photography you can make there. But anyway, thank you again. Love this picture. Well done. You're a star. Moving on. Next photographer is James, and James sent us the picture of the moon. So we have two pictures, and I'm thinking they haven't moved, so I'm assuming they're pretty much the same. This one, if the plane was really there, well done, James. That's not an easy capture at all. Trying to focus your camera on the moon and have everything sharp, and at the same time capturing the plane, super well done. To be honest, the moon, let's see if we have any details. Your Canon 300mm ISO 400, 1/40 of the second, f11. It's not as sharp as I would like to see it, if I have to be 100% honest. You're getting a little bit of a green a glow around it, which is always a shame. So let's see if we can remove it. Yep, you can. So if I click on remove chromatic aberration, it removes the green immediately. Let's see if it's on this one as well. This one as well, you can see the green around the moon, and if I click on the remove the chromatic aberration, it removes it. So something to kind of do for next time. So from technical point of view, even though it's a lovely capture and this technically very complicated to do, I think you could be a little bit more sharper on the moon. Again, you would have to do double exposure to get the plane more in the sharpness, but don't worry about it. So the sharpness, I think your chromatic aberration can be easily removed there. And then the moon itself can be pushed in post-processing, but as it comes to artistic, this is a lovely idea. Well done, but with the moon, there's a clear message. There's a black sky and the moon, and when your main subject is the moon has to be perfect. So if I push the texture, maybe I can get a little bit more detail on the moon, and then when I push the clarity, even more so, I can obviously push some of the contrast to get more contrast in these areas. I can also just use some kind of dodge and burn technique to make them a little bit darker and create more contrast like that. You see, something like this. Yeah, and then I'm getting somewhere. So just a few things to fix on. James, well done. You're definitely heading the direction. See how you could make it a little bit more sharp, and look out for, the removing the chromatic aberration, and send us more pictures. So I can't wait to see them, James. Thank you very much. Moving on next, we have portrait from Doug Roffer. Doug, we have 2 photos from you. And we have this kind of wedding dress, and we have this autumn feel lovely photo. Both of them looking about the first impression, talking about the first impression. I prefer this one because it makes me feel a little bit more natural. When I look at this one, there is something about the background and whatever is around being really dark, compare the light on the actual lady. I think depending on the light setup you use and how you set up your camera, the contrast is really, really heavy. Where in this case, it's there as well. Because of the color she has on her, it's not as visible. In this case, because she has a white dress, it's really visible and it doesn't look very natural. But let's talk about the technical point of view. Let's see. Shame for the compression, because we could have a look at it further. And there is no details about the camera, but in overall, when I look at it like this, it seems to be all sharp except her shoe here. So it's kind of starting from her leg up. Everything seems to be sharp there. So I like that. The light, again, I think this is way too bright compared to the hair background. So that is a touch of a shame. Otherwise, in focus, you probably, I wonder what kind of weather was it, but autumn. So the rest of the light is nice and diffuse, which works very well. On this case, yeah, the light is there. Everything looks sharp and I look at it like this. There is some kind of light coming from a side, which I'm not 100% sure because it's kind of creating the unnatural glow around her. But the rest of it is quite nicely done. And again, I wonder if this was done, if the background, if it was done in studio and then you added background, or if it was done in an actual location. But anyway, artistically, so this one works very well. I really like it. I think it's well done. I think it's a clear message, lovely autumn feel with the beautiful lady. Moving on this one, artistically, for some reason it doesn't work. I understand what you're trying to do when you take the mixture of the wedding dress and you mix it with the kind of wilder boots and sitting on a bench, but I just don't think it works. It doesn't work very well for me. There is a dirty bench, and then the shoes are also dirty and used. And when I take the feel of the wedding dress and the kind of fairy tale feel of it and the pureness, then in the combination with this kind of location, I know what you're trying to do, but I'm not 100% sure about it. And that's just me. I think from the kind of composition part, I think it's well done. Everything is there, and there's nothing you can add to it. But for me, basically, this picture works more. And when it comes to wedding photos, this is not my most favorite I ever seen. Also, I'm not 100% sure about how the lady face. I don't know, it could be with the compression, but it just doesn't match the whole scene, so not sure there. Moving on to post-processing, I think post-processing wise, they are both well done. There is a lovely vignetting here. All colors are natural. Your highlights, shadows all work. Contrast is lovely. I think both portraits are done quite naturally. It's not pushed too much. So well done on it. Doug, we both know that you know what you're doing. I think your skills are well there. It's just to listening to some photographers taking a few tips in there and trying to kind of balance it in between. I think this one, again, it's just the contrast. When you have the white dress, everything else pops out more and you get more in focus. Also, people generally standardize this kind of view, taking the wedding dress and associate it with something, and then when it's matched with something else, it's not always working. But anyway, I hope to see more pictures from you in the future, so thank you for sending them over. Next portrait photographer are from Glory, and we have two photos, and it will be difficult for me to review those. Let's have a look if we have any details. We don't. And I'll tell you why it's going to be difficult for me to review them, Glory. It's because of the quality of the photo. They are, when I look at the information, they are really, really small, 394 on 394, 520. So even if you have captured them right and the light was right, when I look at them on a screen, all I see is a noise, sharpness. I see kind of artifacts on the picture, and I cannot judge the technical part of post-processing here much. When I look at the composition, I think it's a shame that there is this beautiful lady and then there is a mess behind her, and then there are other people. I think, stepping away and trying to choose different background would be one way to go. On this one, I think you're way too close, and it almost seems like you're using some kind of photography filter to remove everything, and the face starting to look almost unnatural. It's well over-processed. Again, I think the background isn't the most luckiest. Try to go out and choose something more natural behind the lady, or if it's you, behind you, and go for there. If you need some inspiration, even on a photography with a camera, go to the website called px500.com, and look for portrait photos or mobile phone portrait photos, and you will see lots of inspiration there. And if you're gonna send us more pictures in the future, what you definitely, I suggest you to do is to send them as big as possible. These are way too small, and it's difficult for me to give you any tips on them, as the compression really makes it difficult to see what you've done there. Moving on to next, we have a still life from Alvin J. So we have two of your pictures, and obviously it's a still life photo. So I kind of like both of them, to be honest. This one probably my more favorite one, because there is more happening, more contrast created by colors, and it's just lovely there. This one, it's nicely done as well, although it's a bit depressing, the scene with the dying flower and with the glass. Again, I'm lately not a huge fan, and so is not the industry of the still life photography, of the dark black background, so something just kind of to look at. But before we move there, just a suggestion and recommendation from me. My friend Joel Grimes, he has a photography masterclass called Still Life Masterclass. It's now in a discount for $57, and basically here's an example of what he does when it comes to still life photography. And I think if you want to kind of push yourself forward and do something which is more upbeat now, this is a great masterclass, definitely worth the money, and you will learn how to create incredible still life photos. But coming back to you, so this one and this one, technically, let's have a look if we have any details. So you're using Canon as your camera on this one, and there are no details on this one, which is a shame. I think as a capture, it's well done. Everything is sharp the way it should be sharp. Your foreground, and then you have a little bit of depth of the field with the flower and with the background. On this one, same. I think when it comes to light, I think it's a shame that you have these kind of light leaks, and I would be wondering what kind of diffuser you're using, if you're using any, and how you can remove these, because they take a little bit of attention away. Simply because as a viewer, your eyes get attracted by the brightest spot of the picture, and when I look at it, the first where my eyes goes is on this one, because it's the brightest point. And here similarly, there is lots of it happening on the actual vase. I would be looking for heavy diffuser and see also what you're using. Also, because of the quite harsher light, you get these kind of shadows here, but you don't have them here. They are nicely done here, so both kind of different pictures on that. But technically, that's what I would be looking for. I would be looking for diffuser and see how I can work a little bit differently with the light, but the rest is fine. When it comes to composition, I'm not sure about this crop here. I'm not sure what's kind of happening. I would be quite interested to see your raw file and see what was there and around. But I really like this one. The composition is well balanced, it works together, and it's really nicely done. I think the message is clear here. I love how it's colorful and playful. It's almost like your kind of late summer scene, and with the lovely porcelain and everything, it just works very well done. So This is a lovely, lovely capture with a great selection of the background and so on. And when it comes to post-processing, the colors are natural and well done. You could do a little bit of a kind of post-crop vignetting just to maybe add more interest on some of the subjects. See if you can maybe just lower the exposure up a little bit, something like this, and similarly from maybe the bottom, and then just add more of the contrast with a little bit of a brush to kind of add more contrast on the main subjects, to do something like this. You could also add a little bit of the saturation, I feel, but in overall, well done on that. I don't have much to tell you. It's nice and clean. There is no mess around. I think you're very methodical, very technical, and well done on that. I think it's just, if you want to push yourself a little bit more towards what's trending now in a still life, again, I would suggest you to check out the still life masterclass from Joel Grimes. I think it's amazing, and you're gonna push yourself even further. Moving on to the next photographer, we have Lilian, and Lilian sent us two pictures, which I think are from Greece, if I would say so. And they are kind of travel photos. And Lilian, I have to say that they are more like a snapshots. They are more as a pictures you would capture on your holidays rather than planned. Let's have a look if we have any details for the photos. No. And why I'm saying it? Well, they are not straight, they are cropped. The time of the day isn't right. You're there during the harsh time. Here, the white balance isn't right. Everything is kind of tilted. This one is a little bit better than the other one because of the sun. The sun is a bit more diffuse. There is a man which kind of adds a little bit of a movement to it. So well done on that. But let's have a look. If I go, for example, just to 2020.com and I have a look some pictures from Greece, you can really see what can be done even though you on travel, what can be done in Greece. And I think that's where I would start when it comes to photography. I would head to one of these websites and look for some inspiration on what you can do while you're on your travels. These are again more kind of snapshots of where you've been, and even though they are interesting for you, there is not much artistic part in it. So I'm really sorry I can't tell you much more. I think, yeah, you could step back a little bit further to show bigger scenes. There is way too much sky. The light is really harsh. So if you want to do this, head to, for example, somebody like Serge Rameli, photoserge.com, look for the landscape photography masterclass and see there it could really help you to push yourself and start to see the world around you a bit differently as a photographer. You need to start to get inspired by what the other ones do to then try to copy it. And then while you copy it, you're going to create your own style. Also, it would be, again, interesting to see what kind of camera you're using because the informations are not there. But well done. Step there to start, Lilian. But you need to do much more. I think taking pictures isn't about just standing at the place and getting quick snapshot. Taking pictures is about thinking it through and coming out with something more interesting than just this. So if you have more pictures, send them over. We can have a look at them. But I would definitely start with some kind of beginner class for photography and try to learn from there. Moving on, next photographer, we have one more travel photographer called Soren P. And Soren sent us two pictures. This almost looks like some kind of, let's see, Jimenez, maybe Mexico or something like that. They are black and white. They are almost your documentary black and white travel photos. Interesting, but not crazy. I mean, neither of the photo really tell any story. They are turned to black and white, so either the light wasn't great or I'm not really sure why. Black and white doesn't always improve the photo. In fact, sometimes it's complete opposite. Let's have a look if we have any details. You're using Leica camera, so you should have a really nice results. But in the first case, 1600 ISO. In the second case, 6400 ISO. So lots of noise, which you can see here. Moving on. Okay, let's start straight from the beginning. Technical point of view. The exposure is right, I think. Would be quite interesting. This looks like it was 4 o'clock in the morning, which is interesting. That's maybe why the high ISO and why 1.7 f-stop. There are details there, so there's no problem there. The exposure is right, there is nice detail in the lamp, I like that. But obviously with the high ISO, you're getting lots of noise on your sky, and you're getting noise on your buildings. Also, as you can see, for example, here, you have some center dust. Let's see if we can remove it. Yeah, really easily, just right here. Is there any more? Not visibly. So that's good. And so that's where we are. And then once you start to remove some of the noise, it's starting to get less sharp, and it's a kind of circle of life, you know. So you remove the noise, you lose the sharpness, you add the sharpness, you add more noise, and so on. Similarly on this one, I mean, there is a crazy ISO 6400. There is really not many cameras who can handle that without noise, and it couldn't neither here. Again, really low f-stop, so I'm wondering what kind of camera we're using. And the noise comes out from it, so even though you turn it black and white, it's really visible. It's a nicer scene than the first one. I think this one works a little bit more, but it's not 100% there yet. Artistically, both of the scenes are a little bit boring. I'm not sure what's the subject, what's the main story here. Is it the building? Is it the lady? Is it the car? Is it, then there is a half cropped car which is not in focus. Here again, a little bit better. There is the street and there is the shop, but then there is this lady walking with something. So just not 100% sure again what you're trying to tell with this. So I think you can do a little bit better. Again, if you're looking for travel photography inspiration, make sure to head to website like px500.com, search there Mexico, black and white travel photography, anything like that, and get inspired from there, because I get what you're trying to do, but I think there is a fair bit of a journey between what you're doing and where you can get. The post-processing actually isn't bad at all. I think I would be looking for some tool to remove some of the noise, but it's nice and natural, nicely done black and white. There is a nice vignettes. I think there are nice details in the shadows and highlights, so nothing wrong there. It's just technically there is a lot of noise. Composition wise and storytelling wise, there is not much happening there. Even though maybe to you this means something, it doesn't mean to somebody who wasn't there with you. And then post-processing quite nicely done. So Soren, try to get inspired by more work of other photographers, and then send us more pictures so we can see them. Moving on, the last photographer, we have Charlie Frizzle. Charlie, thank you very much for sending us your photos, and we have a wildlife photos here. And so we have some kind of bird which is missing a feet, sadly, and then we have another bird which is out of focus a little bit, so I'm not 100% sure where we're gonna go with this one. Anyway, technically, so this one, the bird, or at least the head part of him, is sharp, so well done on that. But then I'm not sure about the time of the day, because everything is touch green, and then we're missing the feed here, so that's probably one of the first mistakes when it comes to birds and everything. Unless the bird is standing in the water, or it's naturally actually leaving his feet somewhere so you can't see them, never crop them away. It's a beginner's mistake, and it always take away quite a few points on the reviews. On this one, even though it's very interesting composition, technically I'm not sure about the light, and it's definitely out of focus. So shame there. I'll tell you something, Charlie. Let me show you our last week's photographer of the week, Jack Kosowski, and let me show you what he sent us. So this is what you're kind of looking for. All sharp, nice story, nice full bird, in a movement, everything working there. Similarly here, that's actually very similar photo to one you sent us. However, the bird is all there, it's standing. As I told Jack last week, if it would be moving, it would be more interesting, but it's all happening there. We can see the full bird, and it's just working there. So if you have a moment, check Jack Kosowski and his pictures. Try to get inspired by that, Charlie. But technically, yeah, so I'm not sure about the light, but your exposure is right. I think, let's have a look if we have details. f.2.8, I think that's one of the problem. Also 41 millimeters, that's an interesting length for this capture, so maybe you have cropped it a lot. So if you have a raw file or file uncropped, make sure to send it to us. Here we have a similar lens, 2.8, and again with 2.8 you get maybe just piece of the eye sharp, the rest of it is really blurry, including the bird, so shame there. Artistically, he's missing a feet. It's not really working. It's well too tight. So, and then there is a lots of noise around him. On this one, artistically, the picture worked for me. I think it's a lovely idea, even though maybe I would be looking for more space here. But artistically, this one I like more. Post-processing, I'm not sure if you cropped it or not. If you did, shame. I think it's a touch too green. I would see if I could maybe add a little bit of the purple to balance it, and maybe less yellow. Also remove some of the saturation and maybe add vibrance. And that would be it. Also, let's have a look how would it look black and white. Not black and white. And then moving on this one, post-processing, I think the white balance is off a little bit again here. Let's see, maybe not as much yellow, but definitely the purple. And then I think this one would look stunning on a black and white if we can add some contrast, maybe lower the exposure and see if we can push a little bit of the clarity and texture, and then we can get something like this, just something a bit more interesting. But anyway, Charlie, thank you very much for sending us your photo. We hope to see more. As always, when we come to these kind of pictures, it's really important to go out and take as many of them, and then also look around and try to get inspired by others, because there is a lot to see when it comes to wildlife photography. For all the rest of you, if you have more photos, make sure you send them to us. Make sure you visit our website cleverphotographer.com, scroll all the way down and check out our newsletter. If you sign up to it, you get the weekly reminders about our photography review show. And also there is always a link to show you where you can upload your photos. Thank you very much for this week. Thank you for joining us, and I can't wait to see you again next Monday.